Oh, hi there. I have a working theory. It's something I've suspected, but been unable to prove or convince anybody that my theory could possibly be true. A lot of people prefer to have simplistic worldviews. And this theory is this. There's certain fruits and vegetables that are supposedly grown in China. Like you could get ginger, garlic. The most common one is Mandarin oranges. And they start showing up around October, late September, and they hang around until about January. The thing is, one normal sized grocery store goes through probably 50,000, 100,000 oranges. That's not a particularly big store. I'm not saying they sell that many. They probably throw out 25% of that. It really all depends. I don't really know the details of that. And you think of how many grocery stores there are around in North America and Europe and just everywhere. There's food everywhere. And if you think of it from a logistic point of view, how is it that China is able to grow that many oranges and then deliver them to North America? It's not possible. Sure, they grow Mandarin oranges, and they got to give their people something. They got to give them some candy. Considering the miserable lives they have to live, slaving away in factories, and they got 1.5 billion population. And the Mandarin orange is something of great imperial pride. So, my theory is that the Mandarin oranges that we consume in North America, probably in Europe too, and Russia as well, and Australia and all those places, they don't actually come from China. They say they do on the box, but they don't really. We can grow Mandarin oranges, no problem here. We get them from Peru and Ecuador and that kind of area. We get them during the summer around there. Now, I understand that different times of the year, certain places can grow certain things and all that sort of stuff. And China's it's either very, very hot over there or it's very, very cold. So those things in factor. The fact that China's a big country, but it's not that big. And it's not that ideal for growing things as well. It's not just, the disgusting water that they have. The soil is contaminated with poisonous metals and things like that. Those are all factors. And the reason they probably say that Mandarin oranges are from China is because originally they did come from there. That's true. They did. But the thing is, I don't think we eat anything from China. I think when something is said that is grown in China, what it really is it's a lower grade food source, because you start climbing to the top, and names get changed, but you get different logos and different things like that. Different companies, different small-time farms, growing crops, and all this. The lines get blurred. You don't know these sort of things, and you can speak to the manager of a grocery store, and A, he either won't know, probably won't, or B, he's not going to tell you. He'll plead ignorance. So whether he is ignorant or not, he's not going to tell you anything. These, I use Mandarin oranges because it's their most popular fruit. The Chinese most popular fruit. They have other ones like dragon fruit and star fruit and that kind of stuff, but Mandarin oranges is where it's at. And they can be grown quite easily in South America. There are places they could probably grow oranges all times of the year. And it's not that we particularly trust the South Americans more. They're quite a violent bunch. But the Americans have been known throughout history to install puppet government regimes. Pinochet was one such example. And people go, oh, that's ancient history. But the thing is, the Americans would not have stopped. There is no stopping. They don't just go, oh, it didn't work, we give up. No, it doesn't work that way. They're going to keep going at it until they win. There's no stopping them. Or they lose. And it may be a bump in the road when the Bay of Pigs happen and things like that. But look at Cuba now. Right back into the fold. And I mean, the South Americans, it's all about the bottom line. It's about money. And they're making a lot of it. Certain South American countries are anyway, and only certain people in those countries are making a lot of money. There's actually a lot of very poor people in South America. But the thing is, these Mandarin oranges, any fruit or vegetables from China, we don't get them for the specific purpose is China's not actually getting a very good business deal out of us. When Richard Nixon went over there, he screwed him over hard. And the thing is, if you know anything about Chinese military history, their MO is to poison people, mostly through their water, their food, whatever. And, that country can never be trusted. Our government has known that for hundreds of years. Okay, when I say our government, it's, it was different. Like, they were before the Americans, it was the English. Before the English, it was this, that, and the other. And, they're different people, different things. But that knowledge has continued ever since then. And it's evolved and grown and become more institutionalized and all this sort of stuff. These old secrets have not been forgotten. These old ways of thinking have not been left in the dustbin. And we know that China is it's a steamering army. It's waiting for an opportunity to get us. And quite frankly, their food, we know it can't be trusted. That's not to say go panic and go, oh, it's made in China, it's poison. Because it would not be on the shelf if it were poisonous, okay? Let's just get that straight. What I am saying is it didn't come from China. I don't think anything that has to do with food actually comes from China. You may go, well, my rice maker says it was made in China. And you may go, well, that's, the kind of cheap piece of crap that they would make. And they do. But they also do and make things like that in Eastern Europe. A lot of things are made in Eastern Europe. And the thing is, that again has to do with food, so therefore, no, I don't think so. It's too risky to do that kind of business with them, especially knowing that they cannot be trusted. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter what our government says. It doesn't matter what the internet says. It doesn't matter what the media says. The fact of the matter is we cannot trust the Chinese. It may seem like the war machine is more geared towards the Middle East and that problem. Now that's a kerfuffle. It's definitely a big fuck up over there. But that isn't the only problem. But it's the problem most people are focused on. That's not what I'm concerned about. A few guys running around, doing their thing in the Middle East, it doesn't bother me as much as an army that's probably in the tens of millions waiting to come over and get us. A lot of people are blinded from that fact. So yeah, getting back to the food thing, China literally cannot grow enough Mandarin oranges to supply the whole world with Mandarin oranges. You can get Mandarin oranges anywhere. It cannot be done. And, feed their own population. Like, I have no idea how big a mandarin tree is, but think about it. Even if a single mandarin tree could grow, I don't know, 10,000 oranges, they would need literally hundreds of thousands of trees. But as a matter of fact, they've been known to cut down many, many, many trees to make chopsticks with. So that's part of their cultural history. They destroy a lot of trees for chopsticks. So I'm not saying that the Chinese don't grow a lot of Mandarin oranges. I'm just saying when a Mandarin orange comes from here and it says it's made in China or grown in China, it's not. It was grown somewhere else, probably in South America, and they just labeled it as grown in China. And that's a little bit of the deception of modern day society that people don't understand. Now, what we do get from the Chinese that is actually made there is computer parts, electronics, things that you don't put in your mouth, okay? There was a time when we used to get action figures made from China as well. We still do because you're not supposed to put them in your mouth, but that is a prime example of why they couldn't be trusted to make certain things, like things for preparing food or food itself. Because if you look at Asian action figures and things like that, cheap ones, cheaply made ones from even 20 years ago, you'll see that they have lead in them and all kinds of poisonous things about them. And it's like, if they're doing that with action figures, then what are they going to do with food? And like I said, don't panic. You don't have to not buy, never eat another Mandarin orange because you go, oh, it's from China, blah, 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 blah. It's okay, man. But I am saying, it's a working theory of mine. We don't actually eat anything from China. Now look, you can go to China and eat their food there, and it is grown there. But, of course, with customs, you can't bring in your own food. So you tell me how a leaky, disgusting boat with disgusting metallic crates filled with Mandarin oranges, how it's able to come to North America when a simple schmuck can't even bring fruits and vegetables across into North America from Asia. That's not all they bring. It doesn't get mentioned a lot, specifically on those border patrol or border cop shows where, they bust them and they got like pineapple or anything, whatever, because they think they can't get it over here. As a matter of fact, most of the time when they're caught, it's because they have, I don't know, a dolphin, dogs, cats, and they think that they can't eat them over here because of our Western cultures. Well, it's true, they can't. And they're not bringing them over here either. I don't want to come in here in the first place, but if they are, they're most certainly not bringing their culture with them. So, it's food for thought that perhaps not anything edible actually comes from China itself. When it says grown in China, that's because it originally came from there, and now we grow it somewhere else. That's my theory. It's because we know we can't trust the Chinese. They're not in our axis of power. When George Bush talked about the axis of evil, there is an axis of evil. And there's also our axis, which is kind of good, kind of does bad things, but all things considered is not so bad. But most certainly, the United States has its own axis. I mean, there's certain areas where people don't quite get along, and there's different ideologies and things like that. But we have our own axis, and that's where our food comes from. We could never trust it to come from someone else's axis. Anyway, I'm gonna finish this video off. Talk to you guys later.